Welcome to the Tomball Museum video series. This is episode 4. Today, for the museum, we're going to be covering a tongue and groove plane. This tongue and groove plane was made between 1823 and 1860 by Herman Chapin of the Union Factory. October 1828, Herman Chapin, he purchased the rights from Daniel Copeland, and he became the sole owner of the company, and he called it Union Factory. The Union Factory is one of the major manufacturers of planes in New England. The imprint on here, the stamp that he uses to identify his planes, is barely readable, but you can read it. This was used for about 32 years, and there's other ones that he would add on there. It would be Union Factory, and it would be an extra mark down here, which he put metal on the toe when he hit it. On the hand planes, he put a metal pin through there. So let's get into this. Throughout the years, technology has developed, and planing, or cutting tongue and grooves, became much easier. Started out with a device like this, like all the other planes. Basically, it's a wedge, and it's held into a certain space, and you run it across, and it makes a groove or a notch or a mark or something, or a curve or something on a piece of wood. Well, that developed, and they started using and came up with the technology of iron planes. Like this one has got blades that you can switch in and out of it. And the one when they came out with the irons, this is a standing number 45, first model. It's a Type 1. I think this is a like 1885 model. And with these, you can change the iron on these. And this is a number 55, later in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And this one does more functions than the 45. This is standing number 55, and you can change the irons in and out of these. Well, that replaced all of these, because all this is, the idea is to cut a groove or a curve or a notch or something. Well, then the power router came out, and this is a tongue and groove for a router, for an actual machine. And this spins and it'll cut. This is a modern one. This is store-bought. This is the way that they basically come now. So you can see the router would come and it would cut this groove, and then it would cut, the other side would cut this. And then now you can put them together and then have a tongue and groove board. Now this tongue and groove plane is exactly as it explained. It's a tongue and it's a groove. And that is what this plane will cut. And I did a small example the best I could without sharpening the tool. And you can see a little bit of the tongue right there. It's very difficult to do without a sharp tool, but you can see how that would fit right in there. And that will cut that, and you flip the tool around, and then you'll cut the groove with this side. These were cut off this plane. And there's some issues with this plane, and we're going to get into that right now. First of all, this isn't the original iron. Iron meaning blade or cutter for the tool. So this is an actual chisel. These are a few of my chisels that I use on a daily basis, and you can see how this is wedged inside here. There's a taper on the front of this, and it goes inside this handle, and when you hit it, it keeps getting down, it keeps setting itself inside. Well, someone in some part of this plane's life, they had lost or broke or something happened to the original iron, and they replaced it with this chisel. And it does work. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this down, and we're going to make it fit in here properly. You can see how this sticks out just the top, and that is so you can adjust the iron, the lateral adjustments, and the depth of the adjustment also. We'll probably make another wedge because this one's cracked. I don't want to replace it and get rid of this. We'll keep this for the museum, but for our purposes, we'll just probably make another one so we can use it without damaging this any more than it already is. We also have to straighten and flatten the front of the irons, sharpen them, flatten the back side, do the same thing we did with all the other ones. So you can see on this cutter that it is off. It's not square. One is actually longer than the other one is. And that is really not a good sign. Let me just do it this way so you can see it better. You can see over here that this one's shorter. And what that did is when I cut the example, you could see how it's not even straight. One side's deeper than the other one because of the iron. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to square this iron away, and we're going to do the same thing with this one. Okay, we're going to handle this like we do the other ones that aren't square. You can see that gap that's in there. So I'm just going to drop it down just right where it hits the top of the one that's short. And when I draw my line, my square line, that marker, see how it comes down a bit? So we're going to cut to the top of the marker. We're going to cut, you know, right there. We don't want to take too much of this off. So let's go to the grinder and do that. So before we put this on the grinder, I went ahead and took a record and marked the angle on that bevel, so we'll know it's about 32 degrees. We know that about where it needs to be. Just in case something drastic happens, we will have this already set and we know where to put it back if something happens. I won't mess it up that bad. We're going to grind this flat, and then we're going to put this angle back on there, flatten the back of this thing, get this thing nice and sharp. And we just got to go into it, just got to flatten it. There's no other way to do it. You just got to do it. I know it's scary, but there's no other option. So I'll bring it down to my line that I did. And to make sure both of them are exactly the same, I got to use this side though. I'm right-handed. Okay, that looks good to me. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to flatten the back, sharpen it. Okay, I think before we go ahead and sharpen and clean up the irons, I need to cut this, and it needs to be sticking out just a little bit like on these other planes. Like here's one. The iron needs to be coming out so we can adjust it. So because this is the iron, we're going to come up just a little bit, like right there, and we're going to cut this off. That way we'll be able to seat this properly and nothing will get in the way. And we'll see how that goes. We'll cut this off and get this out of here. Remember, we got to loosen her up. All right, let's go ahead and take care of this part. Okay, we're going to do both of these at the same time. This was the bad one, and you can see how flat now that it is since I had to fix that. So we're going to start with the flattening with the 220. And remember, we're just going to rub this on here until it becomes flat in the back. We'll turn it over and we'll sharpen the front of it. And seeing how I've done this like 800 times on video, I'm just going to start the process, and then I don't think there's any reason to sit there and watch me do this again for 100 hours. And we'll switch grits and we'll go all the way up, and then we'll put it on the strop and then we'll sharpen them. So that's what we're going to go ahead right now. Okay, let us see what happens now. I polished the back of this a little bit too, so the chips would come out easier. And let me get my wedges mixed up. So we'll be able to more easily, extract the chips so they don't get stuck in there, which they may anyway. And this, I'm kind of concerned about this not being the original iron, but I made a cut with it when it was dull, so hopefully it will cut. Let's see, there we go. So that might be too deep. Okay, so all I've done is I set up this board in between my dogs. Okay, we'll have to set the depth. I mean, I'm just guessing because I just started. You don't know how deep you are. There we go. We're going to go with that setting and see what happens. We're going to put the wedge in a little bit. My bench needs to be replaced, so I'm working on my bench. Beautiful. There we go. Okay. It's taking a little bit deeper of a cut, but it's cutting a beautiful tongue groove. Now let's cut the other side. We'll cut the part where it will fit into it, and I'm hoping that this this makeshift iron is going to work. It's a real deep cut. Adjust a little bit more. Yeah, this side works a lot better. There we go. All right, let's check this out. Oh, that's beautiful. Look. Look at that. Really super excited about this. This worked out very, 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 very well. They come together perfect. If my boards were straight, it would be a seamless deal there. They come together great. There's a perfect enough space for the boards to expand and contract. As always, you get chips caught up in your tool, but these aren't crammed in there. They're just, because I polished the back of the iron, they fall out pretty, relatively easy. The wedge does work fine on the wedge. The chisel works just fine. After I cut that off, so it's not hitting the top of the wedge. So this is a beautiful, beautiful tool. It works absolutely wonderful. It's back and running. You can cut tongue and grooves all day long with this now. Super excited about the results of this plane. I mean, a far difference from when we started, when it was sideways and wasn't cutting very well. Now this thing works very, very good. 1823, 1860s. Chapin Union Factory tongue and groove plane works absolutely wonderful. Super excited to see what the museum has for me next. We've done the hollow plane, the skewed rabbit plane, one of my favorites, the compass plane, all work, all functions, and now we're going to return these and see what else we got in the basket.